Well, EPW fans, there's a chance to actually sit across from Dancin Lukey. He's the man behind the microphone for the last 10 years at Explosive Pro Wrestling. Finally, we get to sit down with him in the way that you should actually enjoy Lukey Bolland, uncensored, uncut, absolutely nothing out of bounds. You look forward to it, Lukey?
I didn't realise it was uncensored and uncut.
You can say swear words if you want. If you need to get them out of your system now, feel free to.
Okay.
Do you remember?
Shit! Go.
Do you remember going down to Radio Fremantle and you said to the guy, is there any swear words we can say on air? And you're like, can I say the S word? And he's like, no. You say, this is on air. Can I say the F word? No. What about cunt? And the guy's like, oh my God.
It was Radio Fremantle. Their listening audience is literally, you have to be in the car park of the radio station to be able to listen. And the car park was empty. It didn't matter what we said. We may as well have been speaking into a cardboard tube at that stage. But it was a fun time.
It was good. Speaking of fun times, and been many over the last 10 years, let's go back to the start. Obviously before EPW or ECW, as it was known then, into the backyard. Tell us how you first caught up with the guys that are now part of EPW.
Well, I was already friends with Davis Storm, Tyler Jacobs, Zerius Blade. We knew each other for years. And so we were always really into wrestling. That's how I kind of got to know them, was, wrestling fans seem to gravitate towards each other. And we saw a story in the paper that was an English guy who was a professional wrestler who lived in Perth. He'd retired here, and he was interested in starting up a wrestling company. And so we're like, fantastic, let's go and meet with this guy. And so out of the story in the paper, we went along and met this guy, and the only other person in all of Perth who'd read this story and was interested in training with this English guy to be a wrestler was Brad West, who at the time would have been, I'm going to say about 15 years old, maybe 16.
100 kilos?
He wasn't a petite little thing back then, was Brad West. So we went along, and this English guy, we met up with him each weekend and we trained with him. And at this stage, I was hell-bent on being a pro wrestler as well. And so, yeah, it was Davis Storm, Tyler Jacobs, myself, Zerius Blade, our friends Josh and John, who left Perth before ECW even started, and then Brad West. And this guy we were kind of thrilled by meeting him because he knew guys like William Regal and all these people he'd met and worked with, so he had great stories to tell. So he's training us on the basics, and I remember the last week I went, he was showing me how to do a snapmare, or as he called it, an Edmare. He's Scottish now for some reason. Here's how you do your Edmare. And so he's given me a snapmare, taking me down. He goes, and you're from he's got to be Scottish now, I've just decided. From here, it's for you. From here you can get him in a headlock, you can get him in an eye gouge, you can give him a bit of a wank if you want, and I'm like, whoa, hang on. Can you just go back there? What was that last thing? An headlock? Not after headlock. What was the next? A bit of a way. Yeah, I'm done here, thanks, old man. It's been real. And so I left that. I think Davis Storm and Tyler Jacobs kept going for a while, and then, I don't know, the old man died or something. I don't remember the end of what happened to him. But it all stopped. And so that was kind of the end of that part of the training. And then it was, years later that we met up with Brad West again once ECW had started. And it was a little awkward when we saw him again because Davis Storm had borrowed a wrestling video from him.
He's a notoriously bad borrower.
Oh, horrible. Horrible. I had to work, I worked at a video store, and that's where I first met Davis Storm, was he'd come in and hire wrestling videos and we'd chat. And he had like $400 worth of late fees at the video store, which I almost got fired because I erased off the system for him. I did get fired, but not for that. It was for something else. I can't remember. But yeah, so it was awkward when we saw Brad West again, because it's like, oh, Fat Brad, you've lost weight. About that WCW World War III video, Davis Storm has it still. Boy, it's good to see you.
Still has a lot of my DVDs as well, actually, Davis Storm. But you said wrestling training for you stopped there. You moved into commentary.
Well, it was actually a little bit later. Davis Storm went over east, and he trained with AWF with a couple guys. And then he kind of came back, and he was showing us a few of the things he'd learned. And I remember that I was kind of training, and I was still hell-bent on, like, I love wrestling. I'm going to be a wrestler one day. And while they were training, I started just calling their moves just from the side, and being a commentator. I'd never had any lessons or anything, just from what I'd seen on TV. And Dave sat me down after, and he's like, you're really good at commentary. I think you should focus on doing commentary from now on. I think you'd be really good at it. I was like, wow, that's really cool of you to say. But I remember getting home later that night and going, oh, that was his polite way of saying I'm a shitty wrestler. I get it now. So I wasn't actually sure if I was going to be good at commentary or if it was just him trying to be nice and not wanting to hurt my feelings about the whole shitty wrestler thing. But as it turned out, it was a pretty natural fit for me.
Yeah, obviously, because you get the background in radio. Talk us through some of the things that you've seen on the other side of the commentary desk. Because it's usually the commentary desk that's getting smashed with wrestlers. I mean, 10 years, you must have seen some fucking hardcore things.
There's been some really hardcore things over the years. Has
there been times where you've stopped and looked at the person next to you and said, this is crazy, this is like, how are they going to continue?
Yeah, there's been some unreal moments. One that straight away springs to mind was, I think it was Reawakening, maybe Reawakening 7, where it was Richter and Bobby Marshall competing, and there was just a move where they'd used a steel chair and it kind of bent in an awkward way, so there was a jagged edge of the chair, and Richter's got his head sliced open on it, and I'm not talking like, it wasn't a couple drops of blood, it wasn't even a small trickle, this was like a tap flowing out, and I know he's, a big man, 6'5", but that was an unhuman amount of blood being spilled all over that building, and that was kind of a moment where you're feeling a bit queasy, and you're thinking, hey everyone, we've had a good time, maybe we should call it a night, maybe we should all just pack up and, hey, there's a McDonald's around the corner, let's all go grab a meal because someone's going to die here if we keep doing this. There's a few moments like that where it's almost uncomfortable watching.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to be relaying what's happening in the ring, but how can you kind of relay what you're seeing? It's so violent to the crowd that's witnessing as well, and like kind of a helpless kind of thing.
And when it's one of those, you're wanting, one, the referee just to go, okay, let's stop this, or two, for Richter to just stay down at this point and say, you know what, I'm feeling a bit lightheaded because I've lost about 78 litres of blood, which I think would kill a normal human, so I'm going to stay down. But he just kept going and refused to give up, which, credit to him. But for me, I would have rather he didn't, personally. It's like, let's just not.
Yeah, well, we talk about kind of losing blood, and we'll go back to the early days of ECW as it was, Redemption, the Mikey injury. It's something that we as a federation probably, gloss over. It wasn't the brightest time in our history of the federation. Being there live, having to call that, what you saw. We'll talk through fans if they're not familiar with the incident, and then we'll go from there.
So this is the second ever ECW show. So we're talking back, it would have been January, February 2002. And Mikey Nichols at the time was only 16 years old. So this is a guy who needs a parent's permission slip to be able to wrestle. And he's in the main event of our second show. It's a 4-way matchup. And he's gone for a crazy, it was kind of a moonsault off the top rope to the outside, but it was like a corkscrew moonsault. And he's just slightly misjudged it, and as it happens in wrestling, things happen. And on the way down, he's hit his head on the apron, and it's busted him open really bad, and he's lost consciousness. And it was tough because it's one of those moments where, as I said, there's moments where you want them to stop the show. And that's one of the moments where they made the right call, and they did take him out of there. Absolute right thing to do. And it was tough having to get up, because he's a friend of mine, and I'm it's almost like at that stage a little brother to me, because I'm a few years older. I'm probably maybe 20 years old. And
I guess 20 years older. I'm
36 back in early 2000.
You're not Rick Sanders.
And so I then, while I'm worrying about him, he's backstage. I don't know what's going on with him. Yeah. All I know is he's lost a lot of blood. He's out cold, and I'm having to speak to the crowd. And all I want to do is go back and check on him. And I'm having to compose myself, having to speak to a crowd of strangers, while my friend's hurt. Tough situation to be in. And then, luckily, he's okay. But outside, it's like a bad kind of slapstick movie that they've tried to load him in an ambulance. The ambulance has got bogged. Second ambulance is rocked up. Apparently, back then Morley was all quicksand because they've also got bogged. So we're all trying to, you know, push this ambulance, get it out of there. It was like a wacky comedy of errors. And it's one of those things where it was a big thing because we're trying to start up this company. There's never been a wrestling company in Perth, ever. This is our second ever show, and a 16-year-old kid gets hurt. There was a little banner on the front of the West Australian the next day saying, you know, local wrestler dices with death.
Yeah.
And they've got a story on the third page of the paper, all about, you know, how young he was and how crazy. And they don't realize that, you know, that was his dream and that his parents had given him permission. And there's no one that young in ECW. There hasn't been since that it's kind of the age limit got raised. But back then, you think it would have been enough, and you think that, you know, if it was your kid, you'd be like, well, that's it for you. And his parents were obviously like that, but it shows Mikey's dedication that he's like, no, not going to stop me. And he kept going, and look at him now.
Yeah, he's flying now. Talk about the closeness that the guys share. I mean, it's something that fans probably don't get to see, what happens behind the curtain. I mean, that's a deliberate ploy by EPW, how we do things, but especially those initial, you know, say 15 guys that started back in ECW, back at Awakening, talk about the closeness that we kind of share.
Well, it's literally, you know, David Storm, Tyler Jacobs, and I well, they knew each other from primary school. I met them just out of high school, so, you know, I'm 16, 17 years old, which is, you know, years before ECW even started. Then we met up with yourself,
the North of the River guys.
The North of the River guys, us Dirty Southies, you know, Rick Sanders, Mikey Nichols, Ferguson Block, all these guys, and became pretty quickly family because it was something that, as I said, there was nothing like this before, so we've had to start this and figure out how do we make this business work. We've invested our own money, and it's one of those things that, I don't know if people realize, but it's almost 11 years for me, and I never made a cent off EPW. If anything, lost money doing it over the years, and it's absolutely never been a regret because it's been a family thing that we were just so passionate about it. We wanted to make it work that everybody just gave of their time, gave of whatever they could, and back then especially we had to, you know, work so hard, and, you know, you guys even more so training, trying to figure out how all of that worked. I was luckily just kind of behind the scenes, wasn't as intense for me, but it's always been really close-knit, that it wasn't just a friendship thing, it really was like a family. So when someone got hurt, you immediately, like, you're concerned for them, you're worried. It's not like, that dude, I've run into him a couple times backstage. Like, we're hanging out every weekend, we're doing everything together, we're having barbecues. It's tough when you're seeing people like that get hurt, but at the same time, you're twice as much celebrating their triumphs. So when you see stories like, you know, Mikey Nichols, Shane Haste wrestling in Ring of Honor, you're like, that's my boys!
Exactly.
Like, you get to share the highs and the lows. It's an awesome thing.
Said it to the guys, I mean, dozens and dozens of trainers have come through our doors since, and, you know, he's basically explained to them that you're so emotionally invested in the product and in the three letters that we have. The highs are very high, but the lows are very low. Have there been, over the last decade, times when you wanted to walk away?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that last time?
Well, one that springs to mind, it wasn't even the first time that that injury with Mikey we talked about at the second show. There was one that happened, it would have been years later. Evolution, yeah. And it was him against Havoc? Jag. Fantastic wrestler, Hartley Jackson. And just, once again, wrestling, things go wrong, and Mikey took a spill. And it was like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep watching my friends get hurt. And, you know, it's that feeling of having to talk to the crowd. I can't be helping, and you feel just, I don't want to be in this situation ever again.
Because it's almost like they're looking to you, the crowd's looking at you to keep the show going.
What's going on? To explain to us what's happening. It's like, I don't know. But I'm going to try and make you feel better now and say, he's fine. I'm sure he's fine. So it's a tough position to be in, but it's never been a time thing, like this is taking up too much of my time, or, you know, I've outgrown this wrestling thing. My mum kept hoping it would happen. She's like, you know, when you get older, you're not going to be, and it's like, well, I think I've if it was ever going to happen, it would have happened by now. I think I'm a wrestling fan for life now.
You can't get rid of us.
It's true.
You talk about how EPW and ECW shapes lives and careers, Mikey Nichols, Shane Haste, those sort of guys, but you've got a wife, you've got a little baby.
Yeah.
You would never have met her if it had not been for wrestling.
It's
if
true.
You think about it.
It's a bizarre twist, but it was yourself and Jimmy Payne worked at Time Zone in Lou.
Awesome job.
Where my wife worked at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember Jimmy, you'd mentioned, you're like, I think you'd get along really well with this girl we work with. I'm like, all right.
Both massive movie buffs.
Yeah, and so Gareth, or Jimmy Payne as he's known, took me along to introduce me, and we just instantly clicked. And I'm like, this girl's not only, she's beautiful, she's into the same things as me, but more importantly, she can give me unlimited free games at Time Zone. And so that was it. I was in, hook, line, and sinker. But yeah, you're right, absolutely. Without EPW, I think, part of me likes to think it's one of those destinies intertwined that maybe we would have met elsewhere, but at this stage, all I can say is without EPW, I wouldn't have met my wife.
Yeah, very, very nice. I'm glad to take a little bit of that. It wasn't mentioned in the wedding speech, but that's fine. That's cool. I have no resentment about that, so that's fine. We spoke about Jag and Havoc. What are some of the best interstaters you've seen come through the doors? Because there's been heaps over years now.
We've had a lot. It's hard to limit it down. Jag and Havoc, Hartley Jackson and Havoc, when they first came over, it was really amazing because they were already like veterans. These guys had been listed in the PWI 500, which, something I used to scowl as a kid and check the list or read all 500 of them. So when they came over, it's like, these guys are a big league. They know what they're doing. And they looked really old. And then, you found out they were like our age. It's like, really? But
it's wrestling.
Yeah. So they were really impressive early on. As the years have gone on, we've had so many guys come over though, and top of mind, you can't go past Damian Slater.
Yeah.
Like, what a talent that guy is in the ring. There's few guys who are at that level of competition. The guy just knows his way around a wrestling ring. Got to mention Carlo.
Yeah.
There's something about Carlo.
He'll be upset if you don't mention
But there's something about Carlo that he's when he comes out, he's such a character that part of you instantly goes, this guy, there's something cool about him. And then about 30 seconds later, you just want to punch him in his stupid face because he's so arrogant and annoying.
Such a stupid face.
Yeah, really. But he knows how to put on a show.
Yeah.
Yeah, really impressive. And there's so many other that I'm going to feel like I'm offending people by leaving them out.
You've never been afraid to offend people, though.
It's true, but the fact of the matter is that if EPW pays to fly these people out, we scout them beforehand, we watch tapes of them, we know that they're good. We're not going to bring out shitty wrestlers and say, here, pay your hard-earned money to come and watch this guy who's really lame in the ring. We've only ever invested in people who are very talented and very good at what they do. So every person that's come through the door has been of a very high standard, I think.
I think if we go back to the whole Mikey injury, that was what basically triggered Jag to get in touch with ECW as it was, and Dave and the guys that were leading the company at that time. And basically that triggered the training over in Adelaide and the subsequent training overseas and basically formed the company. I think that the ECW and the EPW has a lot of, we owe Jag and Havoc a lot. Most certainly.
Cole, who trained them as well.
Cole Devani, they went over for the tribute show for Cole a couple of months ago, and EPW wouldn't be around if it wasn't for those South Australian guys.
Yeah.
We've had a world champion in our ring. We've wrestled with world champions.
Now, it does fall under the NWA banner, but it was EPW as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It was Challenge Stadium next night in Bunbury.
I think it was.
Yeah, and huge shows where we had over these guys like Bryan Danielson, or as he's known now, Daniel Bryan, or if you asked Booker T, D. Bryan.
I don't want to ask Booker T anything.
It's so hard to say Daniel. My boy D. Bryan. Really? We don't call you BT. Really? So he came over and he did X-Pac in the first night. Second night, Mikey Nichols in the ring with Bryan Danielson. So we've got, looking at it now, former WWE World Champion Daniel Bryan competing with Mikey Nichols.
The kid that had his head split open at Morley. It's the 16-year-old.
Incredible. Like, it blows my mind to think about it. And there's me calling that match.
Yeah.
You know, it's an amazing moment. And the fact that, you know, Mikey Nichols gets the win.
Yeah.
And can we talk about the circumstances?
I think we can talk about it, yeah.
All right, we're going to be completely honest. Daniel Bryan supposed to win this match.
The big US star, he's told explicitly that, you know, Mikey's an up-and-coming kid, but he's told that, you know, Daniel Bryan's going to beat him up.
Because he's, you know, he's already a big name on the independent circuit. We're not going to bring him out if nobody's ever heard of him. And he makes the decision on the fly during the match, and he says, this crowd, it loves you. They're going to lose their mind if you don't get the win here. And decides during the match, Mikey, you're going to get the win. Like, what a cool guy.
Yeah. World champion, but still having the humility to be able to kind of, you know, cater to the hometown boy.
And, you know, it was one of those guys that backstage, just nicest pie to everyone. Yeah. Really, really nice to be around. And, you know, same said with X-Pac. I've heard negative stuff over the years about him.
Because I heard he was high the whole time he was here.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. But lovely guy. Really good guy.
We talk about other kind of big names and that have crossed, you know, come through the EPW doors. Rove, obviously, it's a story that people, it's the most asked question on Twitter about this kind of interview. Tell us from the start, how did we get involved with Rove? Talk us through the show.
It's funny because there was a guy who'd come to every EPW show named Clayton. And he's come up to us after one of the shows and said, you know, love what you guys are doing, never miss a show. I'm good friends with Rove. You know, maybe he'd be interested in doing something with you guys. And I remember thinking, you know, I've met a lot of wrestling fans over the years.
If they have taught you anything.
Not all of them are sane and honest. I remember once when I'm maybe 17 years old, sleeping out at the Burswood Entertainment Center because WCW were coming to town. And it was the first wrestling tour that had been here since the 70s. Like, this is before WWE had even started regularly coming to Australia. The WCW is coming, and I'm like, I'm going. I slept out overnight to get front row tickets, and the only person who got there before me was this really big kind of, he would have been middle-aged guy, and he had a jumper on that looked like the Freddy Krueger jumper. Yeah. And I remember saying, you look like Freddy Krueger, and he goes, I got the glove in my car. And I'm like, really? And he went and came back with a plastic Freddy Krueger glove that he wore. So he was a frightful guy, and he was telling me all these stories while we were waiting in line about how, you know, Kevin Nash, he's not staying at a fancy hotel when he comes. He stays at my place in Gosnells because we're best mates. I'm like, okay, so you're insane. I get it now. And so meeting a few wrestling fans like that over the years, when this guy goes, you know, I'm good friends with Rove, you go, yeah, sure you are, buddy. And at that time, I'm doing the breakfast show on 92.9. So each week we'd talk to Rove, and he'd tell us what's coming up on his show and promote it. We'd have a bit of a chat. And so off the air, I've gone, hey, do you know this guy Clayton? He's like, yep, a good friend of mine. I'm like, really? Good friend. And so I said, well, he said you might be interested in doing something with the wrestling. He's like, yep, I love wrestling. Let's cue something up. And so it happened. And this is the time when I'm playing a bad guy. I'm the king of Perth radio, and I'm just being an egotistical dickhole. And it's with the Forefathers, and we start rubbishing on Rove, and then it's like he's going to show up at the next show. Right. I remember there was a whole bunch, like, I think David Storm came out with a Rove mask on at one show, and we did all this stuff, and people didn't believe it was actually going to happen. And then, sure enough, out of nowhere, I think it was Evolution 2005, out walks Rove McManus.
But the story that people don't know about, just getting Rove McManus through the door. I mean, talk us about the sacrifice that he made just to make it to the show.
This is how much of a good guy. If anyone ever tells you Rove McManus isn't a good guy, you slap them in their stupid face. This is what Rove McManus did. On his own back, he paid for himself to fly over to Perth. He left Melbourne, where he was living at the time, filming a show, at about midday on a Friday. flew over to Perth, landed pretty much just as our show's starting. Came in, kind of had a chat backstage, figuring out what's going to happen. Happily took photos with every member of the EPW roster, because everyone, of course, loved the show and was a big fan of his. Then came out. We had a bit of a verbal altercation, and it finished that night with him getting me in a figure 4 leg lock, which coincidentally hurt like buggery. And I remember, like, afterwards thinking, going, wow, that, like, came so much. Like, how did you know how to do the figure 4 leg lock? And he's like, oh, I had Ric Flair on the show, and he showed me how to do it. And I'm like, cool. Had a guy who was trained by Ric Flair just put me in the figure 4 leg lock. No big deal. Oh, by the way, it was gold Logie winning Rove McManus. So he's done that. He's then, once again, you know, off his own finance, flown home. He's watched as much of the show as he could, but then he's had to jump on a plane and fly back. So he's basically spent a whole day of his life so he could come and do 10 minutes for free at a Perth wrestling show. What an awesome guy.
It would have cost him a little bit of money because we had a bit of a swear rule at the time. And he owns the first F-bomb on a microphone on a live EPW microphone.
I don't think we made him pay the swear jar. I think we let that slide. But he was awesome about it, and I remember we kept chatting, you know, doing a radio thing, and then eventually I went over to Melbourne to watch a live taping of this show, and he spotted me in the crowd and was like, Lukey, and took me backstage afterwards to the green room, had drinks with, you know, the guests from the show, and him and Peter Hellier and Corinne at the time, and I as a thank you, I gave him a framed picture of him with me in the figure 4 leg lock, which is...
Still hanging in Peter Hellier.
It is. It's up on Strawny's pool room wall. But great guy, and you know, he didn't have to do that, and the fact that he did just shows how awesome he is.
That was a pretty special time for you because it was a time where you were taken out of behind the commentary desk.
Yeah.
And we sort of just set you on the fans in terms of the heel manager role that you had with the Forefathers.
I got the cool little
Madonna,
the Madonna or the Britney Spears head microphone, which was great because I could drown out the commentators, which I think
it might have for a little while.
Brad West, Jack Burbank, for a while there, and it was so much fun because I just on the radio I was myself, so I'm a pretty laid back guy. I like to have a bit of a joke, and then I had to kind of come up with this alter ego and just be the nastiest, rudest, and it was so much fun. Like I can't even begin to tell you. And there was great moments, like it was the Forefathers was Davis Storm, it was yourself, Jimmy Payne, we had Jag for a while, Justin Sane, which, one of my favourite lines was Justin Sane, walking him out to the ring as his manager, and this group of guys goes, Justin's a pussy, and I just turned around and off the bat just said, if Justin Sane's a pussy, you better take a damn good look because it's the only one you're ever going to see. And they were like, oh, I have nothing to say back to that. So that was kind of cool. But my favourite moment with that, it built to like a year and a half of me just being a total, absolute asshole, and everybody hated me. But every time I was about to get beaten up, I'd, you know, hide behind Jimmy Payne, hide behind you, hide behind Davis Storm, and so I was untouchable. So it finally gets to, it was a tables match with GST versus yourself and Davis Storm for the EPW Tag Team titles. And I'm at ringside, I'm interfering every chance I can, and then all of a sudden you're laid out, Storm's laid out, I find myself alone in the ring with Bobby Marshall, I turn to run, CJL's blocking me on the exit. Next thing I know, Bobby Marshall's got me over his head, powerbombs me through a table, and I just remember screaming, but more than that, just the crowd lost their minds because this was like a year plus of me being a total jerk, and they'd finally seen me get my comeuppance, and it was probably my favorite moment. Aside from the pain of being thrown through a table, like that roar from the crowd was like, I deserve that.
Yeah.
I had that coming.
Other favourite moments over the 10 years? I mean, it must be hard to kind of whittle them all down.
Yeah, well, it's so many great matches over the years. Someone asked me a while back, you know, what's your favourite match? And I couldn't bring it down to just one because I feel like I'm betraying other matches then. But off the top of my head, I loved the Bobby Marshall, Jimmy Payne ladder match. Was just incredible to watch. Looking at it was your farewell match, the 6-man, where it was yourself, Jimmy Payne, David Storm, and at that stage, you guys were going to be gone for good. You were moving away. And so that was, an emotional night, and was amazing. One that, it's hard to explain, but I am a big fan of EPW. Like, not just the commentator, I enjoy just watching the shows. And there was a show, I think it might have been the first Gold Rush, and it was Bobby Marshall's the EPW champion. He's been the champion for almost a year, I think.
It's Monday Night Wrestling era, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were doing the TV show, the Monday Night Wrestling on the local TV station, Access 31 at the time, now West TV. And Bobby Marshall had the belt in a bag, refused to show people. It was just so hateable that you just wanted to see him lose, and he just kept weaseling his way out, kept walking away with the belt. And then this one night, they've declared on the night that it's now, him and David Storm was already scheduled, but it's now going to be a title match. And I had no idea. I hate knowing what's going to happen. I hate it, even when you're on Facebook and someone puts up, can you believe this happened to the pay-per-view? And you're like, thanks, Jagoff. I was going to watch it when I got home from work, and you've ruined it now. Kane Burt curses. So I didn't know it was going to be made into a title match. So I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And out of nowhere, David Storm picks up the win, and it was one of my favorite moments. It's one of those, that's why I love wrestling. You can't, anyone who's not a fan, you can't explain moments like that to them. But it's one of those unexpected, just the hero getting the win over the villain, and I just wanted to, run in the ring and hoist David Storm on my shoulders with the belt, and then it's like, oh no, wait, I'm supposed to be speaking into the talkie stick here. So you're having to kind of condense all that and be like, not shrieking like a girl, that this amazing moment has happened and kind of composing. Yeah. But that was a truly special moment.
Other side of the coin, the worst match you've ever had to call. Question without notice.
And it is a little unexpected. There was some really awkward ones.
Because I've had some stinkers, and I'm worried you're going to say one of mine.
No,
I mean, I don't know.
There's one that it's
juice.
No, it's wow. Wayne Simmons doing commentary at the second show. That was a good time. But the one that comes to mind is Ananothika, Richter, and Ananothika. He went for I don't know, 8,020 splash that he's just, I'm going to turn as many times as I can. And just wound up stomping on, Richter's balls from the top rope. And it was the most awkward testicle exploding moment I've ever heard, that I'm like, well, there goes Richter's chance of having children one day. But it was just horrible to watch someone get their balls squashed like that. That wasn't great.
Has there been times where you kind of just turned to the person next to you and went, what the hell did we just see? Like, you just begs belief, because you're a guy who is never short of a word. Yeah. Is there any times where you're just speechless on the mic?
Yeah, I guess there's been a few over the years. There are moments where you're a little, things just going on, your mind's going a million miles per hour. Moments like, when Richter's bleeding buckets, and you're like, what do you say to this right now? And you're just turning to the person next to you going, this is happening, right? This isn't some weird dream? Okay, cool, let's go on. There's been a lot of moments like that. I don't think there's anything that's really left me absolutely speechless, though. There's been a lot of unreal moments, but nothing that stopped me in my tracks.
We've been talking, we feel like we've just been talking 10 minutes, but it has been a little while. Sum up the last 10 years, if you can, in just a few sentences about the journey, the trip. We don't know what the future holds for you in terms of your performance with EPW, stepping away for a little while, which you're more than welcome to do after 10 years. Arguably the hardest working guy on the EPW roster. I said arguably.
Yeah.
But try and sum up the last 10 years in a few sentences.
It's hard to sum it up. It's been kind of a realization of dreams, but not so much for myself. It's being able to watch other people realize their dreams. I never sat as a kid and gone, one day I'm going to be a wrestling commentator for a Perth wrestling company, it just kind of worked out that was a way for me to get the best seat in the house for all the shows. It's like, all I got to do is talk into this and I get to sit that close to the ring, I'll do it. But getting to see other people realize their dreams and getting to see some pretty incredible wrestling has been a hell of a trip. It's been amazing. Just the passion and I don't know what other word there is to describe EPW, but passion and family kind of springs to mind.
Well, it's about all the time we have here. I mean, it feels like we could just talk forever, and hopefully this is just the first of a series that we can do of these shoot interviews with EPW legends like Dancin Lukey Bolland. But thanks very much for your time, Luke.
My pleasure.
Thanks, guys.